Hi, welcome to a Google Plus Hangout with Boston College. My name is Steph St. Martin, and I am the Boston College Alumni Social Media Manager for University Advancement here at BC. Before we get started, I just want to take a moment to thank all of my colleagues in both Boston College University Advancement, as well as the Office of News and Public Affairs, and Boston College Athletics for making this Hangout possible. I am thrilled to welcome BC Athletic Director Brad Bates. As most of you know, Brad joined us from the University of Miami University in Ohio. He holds a bachelor's degree from Michigan, where he was a walk-on defensive back before earning a football scholarship. And he also has a master's in education from Michigan, as well as a doctorate in education from Vanderbilt. If you have any questions for Brad during today's Hangout, you can submit them through either Google Plus through the chat feature, or you can actually submit them by tweeting us with hashtag AskBradBates. So once again, it's hashtag AskBradBates. So thanks so much for joining us today, Brad. Are you ready to get started?
Let's roll, and thanks, Stephanie. I appreciate all the time you put into this, and I want to welcome everyone that's tuned in. Great to have you here with us today. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. So here's the... Oh, what'd you say?
Just looking forward to having a little online chat.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I'm really excited for this, and just seeing, before we got started, the Ask Brad Bates Hangout start to get a lot of questions. I'm eager to see what the Superfans and the fans of BC Athletics have to say. So the first question, what off-the-field accomplishment are you most proud of for any BC athlete?
Great question. I think, though, there's a really obvious one. What Pete Frates has done to inspire an entire nation has just been remarkable this year, and how could we not be proud of the way he's motivated all of us in creating awareness for ALS? So that, to me, immediately jumps to the top of the list.
Yeah, it's still trending. Strikeout ALS is everywhere. In fact, the BC Alumni Association just did the Ice Bucket Challenge yesterday. So it's great to see the movement still continuing.
Yeah, and I've been called out by a lot of people. I'm trying to come up with a creative way to do that sometime in the next couple of days, so we'll see how we do this.
All right, well, stay tuned, Superfans. Next question for you. You've been at BC for about 2 years now, and was there anything surprising about the Boston College community that you pleasantly surprised by before you came here that you found out after?
Well, I'd never worked at a Jesuit institution before, and I would say two things immediately come to mind. One is the entire Jesuit ideology and how that's integrated into our philosophy of education, and how that really plays into athletics as well. The way that we engage students and support one another, the whole culture that exists as well at Boston College, as much as I had read and heard about it, until you really experience it, you can't even comprehend the depth of that engagement. And so that was an amazing and very pleasant surprise. The other thing I'd say is the high quality of our student athletes. Their intellect, their professionalism, their class and dignity, the way they engage a variety of diverse activities really represents all this well, and it's inspiring to me to watch them daily.
Yeah, BC always at the top of the rankings when it comes to student athletes for graduation rates, and I know there's a number of things between going to class and playing games, they're really remarkable, and it's always pleasant to see the different things they do, so thanks for that.
Yeah, Stephanie, what's really fun, everyone sees the public way that our students conduct themselves, whether it's in competitions or practices, media interviews, the graduation rate reports, but I can't even begin to tell you the behind-the-scenes activities that our students, and it's not just student athletes, but our students at Boston College are involved in. They are clearly striving to make the world a better place and engage any endeavors that they are passionate about and make it better than they find them.
No, truly. The next question actually ties into that. So, as you know, BC's motto is ever to excel. And a lot of alumni have been tweeting at me and tweeting at people in Boston College about those excelled shirts that the football team wears, and they're just trying to wonder if there's any way BC alumni can get those hands on the excelled shirts. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, whenever we get feedback from our fans, we follow up on that. And in this particular case, I know we're having some discussions with our with the bookstore and with some of our partners, and to see if we can perhaps provide that to the public. But yeah, the feedback's been wonderful, and let me take a moment also. Feedback for us is great, whether it's positive or negative. We're not telepathic, and so when people take the time to let us know how we can get better or the things that we're doing well to reinforce that, we really welcome all of that. So please continue to give us your feedback.
Well, speaking of feedback, this is question number 4. So many sports bloggers and alumni superfans have been inquiring about the state of food at BC, and particularly the pretzel situation. So apparently I know this is like Pretzelgate. So apparently we have sesame seed pretzels and they want salted pretzels, and I don't know, I'm going to put you on the spot, any update on the pretzel situation?
Well, I don't have a defined update on the pretzel situation. I know that this came up actually at a town hall meeting a year ago, and we looked into it at that point. I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to see some change at some point this fall, but I don't have a final green light that I've heard yet, so I can't articulate that. I will say that the timing of the question is perfect. We actually had, I wasn't able to attend, but a taste testing yesterday from our concession staff, and I think our fans will be very excited to see that there is going to be a more diverse menu this year of items. And so again, you're right, based on the feedback, please let us know what you think about the types of foods that we're providing.
And I just want to take this moment to remind those watching, if you have a question, submit them. Ask Brad Bates on Twitter using that hashtag. So this is a question from Twitter. It's from Jeff BC94. He's out in Ohio. Hi, Jeff. What is your approach to student leadership throughout the teams? What do you do in terms of workshops or kind of skill building with the student athletes when it comes to leadership?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say there's kind of 3 quick answers to that question. First is that it's in a decentralized way, each of our coaches manage the leadership development of their teams in a unique sort of curriculum. And so the variance between our coaches is really fascinating, and we're trying to get a more coordinated effort of a hybrid dialogue so we can share best practices, because I think our coaches can learn from one another in terms of how they're selecting captains, how they're dealing with freshmen relative to seniors. So the whole leadership development concept in a decentralized way takes place really daily with our coaches. The second sort of bucket I would call leadership development falls into a programming aspect, and we take advantage of a lot of the areas of the university. You know, there's a lot of smart people at Boston College, and so not to use them in ways that can help all of us, staff and students, grow, particularly as leaders, would really be silly. So we've engaged a lot of our faculty and staff across the institution. The third thing we're really trying to do, and Allison Quant heads this area up for us at the athletic department, and she's an alum of Boston College, played ice hockey for us. But we're trying to develop a 4-year curriculum of leadership development for our student athletes, class by class, that is complementing what they're getting in the programming, as well as what they're getting in the decentralized leadership development that our coaches are providing. So those are sort of the 3 strategic ways we're approaching it.
That's awesome to hear. That's something I didn't know, so thank you for sharing that. You know, there's a lot of, you guys, I will give athletics credit, you have such a remarkable social media presence across your teams, from Be a Dude to the football team, to many of the other teams active on social media. I'm personally partial to Boston College women's basketball. I think they're a really fun team on social media. They do absolutely adorable things. Is there anything that you've seen that they've posted that you like, or any teams on social media that you like?
You know, women's basketball, the first time I had heard of the Ice Bucket Challenge was when Eric Johnson did it in front of the Flutie statue. He had the team dump the bucket on him. And I just happened to be walking into the north entrance, and he said, if you've got 10 minutes, you're going to be really entertained, stick around. And then I learned the whole, and at the time he was doing it for the Yao Foundation. But I thought the way he did that, engaged his entire team, used them as part of the entertainment, for lack of a better term, was really clever. And based on my observation of that, that's probably my favorite women's basketball tweet. But yeah, you're right. From Chris Cameron to Jamie DiLoretto staff to our coaches, there's a lot of creativity in our department, we're still striving to be a little more coordinated and sort of sharing how we're approaching this in a tactical way. But we're getting there.
No, it's always great to see. Women's basketball. I know some of the stuff I love is their behind the scenes, if you will. So them at practice doing something or hanging out together at dinner. I mean, it's really cool to see. For hockey, they have these really amazing graphics they do during the games. So each team kind of has its own voice, which is really nice to see. So yeah, I remember the ice bucket challenge, and I think Coach Johnson was the first time I saw it. So yeah, I guess he kind of started it all at Boston College, if you will. So the next question. So last week, you guys received tweets from current and former athletes thanking the Flynn Fund for their commitment to BC. So any story from that? I know you had a follow-up on your blog.
Yeah, we don't say thank you enough. It doesn't mean we're not thinking it. And so anytime we can deliberately thank the people that are supporting us, and there are three ways you can support Boston College: with your time, your talent, or your treasure. And so in the Flynn Fund, that particular case, it's treasure for the most part. And so we want to make sure that people see how meaningful their gifts and their support is to our department. It's easy for us. We, every day, get to see the outcome of that investment in the types of programming that we just discussed earlier, such as leadership development, having quality coaches, having support staff that's really fully engaged in student development and holistic welfare. And so we want to take that entire week to thank everybody for what they do. But again, we don't say it enough. It was an opportunity for all of us to thank those people.
I personally love when you're out front of the entrance by St. Ignatius Church, shaking the hands of everyone when they're coming into the stadium. So that's a way you definitely thank the folks coming back for the football games.
A lot of ways you can thank them, and that's one simple, easy way. And it's fun. It's game day. Everyone's excited. It's a great way to feel a part of what's going on and put faces to names and thank people personally.
So, it's wonderful. I feel like BC's so blessed between the World Cup and the Winter Olympics. We were definitely on the world stage, and particularly with the 2014 Winter Olympics. Is there one memory that kind of stands out to you with a current Eagle and two former Eagles on that team?
Yeah, well, you just described it. We were all at times getting up really early to watch some of these competitions, particularly the hockey games. Probably my favorite moment related to the World Cup and the Olympics last year was when we walked the silver medalists out on the ice at the men's hockey game. Before their feet even hit the ice, they're wearing their USA jerseys, they've got the medals on, the entire crowd stands up and erupts. And including the two teams who were playing, by the way, the two men's teams. And that moment, I thought, really captured, our three students, including current student Alex Carpenter, were just so proud. And the way they were representing Boston College, it wasn't regional, it wasn't national, that was international. That was probably my favorite moment from last year.
Yeah, it was great to see so many people come out to get autographs before the game, and they could touch the silver medals. I saw more than one future Eagle put on the medal, and of course it's hanging down to their ankles, but it was just a really great way to welcome back home to the Heights.
Yes.
So last week you guys had movie night. How did that go at Alumni Stadium?
Oh, tonight we're having another movie night for the freshman class. So they'll be in the stadium. They have an ice cream social. It's all tied into their orientation activities. Mm-hmm. The movie night was a concept that we were thinking big but wanted to start small. We didn't really promote it heavily, but we wanted to reach out to our neighborhood community and really give them opportunities to come into Alumni Stadium. People affiliated with football or soccer or any of the programs that use our stadium take it for granted when you get on Alumni Field. But when you don't get the chance to be on the stadium field, it's really a big deal. And so we wanted families from the neighborhood to come out, or anyone for that matter. And we have these beautiful new video boards. And we wanted to showcase those and get people excited about them and give them a taste of the quality of the technology. And we had over 1,000 people on a night that wasn't heavily promoted. Families were coming out an hour before the show started, spreading out their blankets on the field. We had popcorn and soft drinks. It was just a wonderful evening. The feedback was great. We had several members from our campus community bring their children as well. And so overall, it was a really, really great night, and the weather held out for us.
Yeah, from the alumni side of things, I know of two families from New York, like upstate New York, who drove out for movie night at Alumni Stadium. So it was a draw beyond the local community.
Yeah, it was a little beyond the local community. If we're getting people driving in from New York, that's great.
Yeah. We received a question from BC Eagle 1974 on Twitter regarding the master plan and kind of strategic initiative. Is there anything you want to comment on that?
Yeah, we haven't gone public with our strategic plan. It's almost entirely completed. People shouldn't assume because we haven't gone public we're not fully and aggressively pursuing internal goals. We actually debated. There are elements of our strategic plan that have been authorized and approved and we could go public with, but we've decided that we want to make sure the entire plan has been approved by the institution before we go public. Some of it includes some very major facility activities and new renovations and that sort of thing. And so when we're ready to go public with it, we will, but people shouldn't misinterpret my bad judgment in optimistically identifying when I thought we could go public. Please don't misinterpret that as that we're just sitting around waiting and not doing anything, because we're actively engaged in a strategic plan. It's just internally communicated right now.
I think a lot of people can appreciate that, making sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed before any major announcement is made. I think they can appreciate that.
Yeah, we're all inherently impatient, though. I certainly know I am, and I can understand anyone else that would be impatient out there as well. But we'll go public as soon as we have the green light on 100% of the strategic plan. But again, don't misinterpret that we're not aggressively pursuing our internal goals.
So we just got this question live a couple of minutes ago. Any update on your efforts to expand the tailgating hours?
Yeah, we're laying a foundation for that. That's not going to happen this year, but we're trying to lay a foundation for the future. We're being very calculated in what that means, and very specific to different areas of campus. And so we've got a sort of a template of a plan that we hope to engage heading into next year. There's data that we're going to be collecting this year that I think can help support what we're trying to do with our tailgating, our traffic flow, and our parking situation. And again, I guess it's similar to strategic plan. When we have the green light on some of those activities, we'll certainly go public and make people aware. I am excited, though, this year, and we'll be doing some pieces next week heading into our first home game of a lot of new initiatives that we are going to incorporate starting next Friday with the Pittsburgh game.
So I guess, from an alumni or anybody watching, definitely send your feedback about these new things happening at the Pittsburgh game, just so you can get that feedback to see how it's working, right?
Absolutely. We'll also be sending, and we did this periodically last year, we'll be sending out surveys to our season ticket holders after a lot of the games this year, if not all of them, seeking feedback, particularly if we're doing a new initiative and we want direct feedback on that particular initiative. They're not going to be long surveys, but they're going to be very targeted. And so any feedback they can give, please don't hesitate to let us know.
So keep your eyes peeled, Superfans. Next question we have from Hoya Eagle on Twitter. Again, I think this is something you kind of alluded to with the master plan and strategic initiative, but an indoor practice facility. Is there any update on that in terms of things, or is that kind of with the strategic plan and all that?
Yeah, that definitely falls in within the master plan for athletic facilities, and that's part of what we need to get formal approval from the institution on. There are a variety of facility projects that we're talking about, and identifying those and the pathway and the time frame for which those can be put in place. The clock for athletics is much faster. We're on a cycle of students here for 4 years. We're recruiting students now that aren't going to have an impact on our campus for another 2-3 years as freshmen. And so we need to get a lot of these things moving as quickly as possible, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you on that. So, question four from Fake Baldwin on Twitter. Um, when will BC be joining the schools that serve alcohol at games? Is that a
Well, I can tell you right now, we're not having any discussion about adding alcohol sales right now. Although we have been observing what people are doing nationally. There was an article that was written last year. West Virginia and Minnesota had started having alcohol sales. The theory behind it was students, not students, but fans will binge drink before they go in the stadium if there's no alcohol sales. And so they were seeking to prove whether it would reduce binge drinking if they sold it in the stadium or not. So some of the preliminary results seem to indicate that the arrests and conduct violations were down. So we're monitoring nationally what's taking place. Obviously, there's a revenue um, part to selling alcohol, but at the same time, if we're going to venture into that discussion, we got to be very careful because not everyone that comes to our games supports that. We actually had that debate come up at one of the town hall meetings. Someone had raised that issue, and we had someone else that said, "I'm not excited about that idea."
No, that's good to know. And I think the town halls were great because there was that discussion between fans where someone could be on one side of the aisle and somebody else on the other, and it wasn't just everyone thinks this way.
Yeah, what's been great, and our staff has done a nice job of this, is reaching out to our fans and before we make policy decisions, proactively trying to get focus groups and our fans to give us feedback on the types of things that we're considering. And because the feedback has been so terrific, we're going to continue to seek perspectives from all of our people.
So I got another question for you. This one is from Michael Downer, but a number of people have asked this. Of the BC women's program, is there a plan for the return of varsity men's lacrosse at Boston College?
Well, I appreciate you asking that, Michael. And you're not the first one to ask me that question. Our focus right now, we have 31 teams. We got to figure out how we're going to support those 31 teams. And that's part of the final stage of our strategic plan. Once we figure out those 31, then we can look at opportunities for other programs such as lacrosse. I think Michael makes a great point. Certainly the success of our women's lacrosse program shows that we can have success at Boston College in lacrosse. But if we're going to add a sport such as lacrosse, we got to make sure we do it right. We got to make sure that we have coaches who can have success, give them compensation package so they can hire the best assistants. The good news about lacrosse, we already have a facility. And so the quick answer to Michael's question is, at this point in time, we're not ready to engage that discussion, but it is something that we have had some internal dialogue about. But we got to focus on our 31 sports first.
That's fair enough. Another question from Twitter is from Matt Abbott 33. Any updates on non-conference Power 5 opponents in the coming years?
No updates I'm prepared to give today, but there should be some coming up in the next month. We're having some, as most people know, starting in 2017, the ACC has a requirement that we go to an 8+1 model. We'll play 8 conference games and then a +1 FBS opponent. I'm sorry, Power 5 opponent. And so we're carefully trying to craft what that's going to look like. And as we sign those contracts, we'll go public and announce it when we think it's in the best interest of our program and recruiting. We have a couple of issues that we're trying to clean up in the next 2 years, some that have caused a lot of challenges. And so that's a big focus right now because we're a year away from next year's kickoff and we haven't been able to finalize that yet. So we're in a home stretch of hopefully being able to announce our 15th schedule soon.
So with kind of the Power 5, this is another programming question. Will BC make a push to host more conference championships in the future, such as field hockey or women's lacrosse? Any things on the map? I know the NCAA Frozen Four is in Boston this year, but I didn't know if there's anything else that BC is doing to host conference championships.
Yeah, most of the sports are on a rotation, and so they cycle based on the when you previously hosted the championship. But in the sports where you can sort of, for lack of a better term, bid to try and host, we absolutely want to have as many championships on our campus as possible. the number of those sports is not great, but those sports we really want here. There's also some NCAA regional championships that we're interested in pursuing, and I think our fans will see that we're pretty active in that right now. Hopefully the NCAA will pick us for some of those regional sites. The experience we had last year with women's lacrosse was sensational, and the crowds were great, and it was really fun to have a big-time ACC championship in Alumni Stadium. And I know our students on the team had a great experience, other than the fact they wanted to win the championship.
No, fingers crossed that we'll see more championships at BC. So this is another one that just came through on Twitter. Before 2010, men's basketball typically made the NCAA tournament. Is that the same expectation you have going forward?
Oh, absolutely. The postseason is definitely an objective, and I know Jim Christian feels the same way about that. You get a chance to, if you're in the national tournament, you got a chance to win the whole baby. And as everyone knows, if you're competitive in the ACC, you're going to get a chance to play in the national championship tournament. And if you're competitive in the ACC, you got a chance to win the whole thing. And certainly our history shows that Boston College is very capable of consistently getting to the postseason.
Another question I have, this is from Soar Eagles, and I'm not really sure, this might be a master plan question, so forgive me. When are they going to start building dorms on Shea? This is something I haven't even heard of, so.
It's a master plan for the university question, actually, and to my knowledge, and I'm not probably the best person to ask that, there's no timeline for that. So there's nothing in the immediate future.
We have this question from Are You Looped In? What event do you see drawing the largest crowd this year?
Well, I think clearly at this point in time you would say the USC game. If you know, it's already been picked up as a primetime Saturday night game. We are cautiously optimistic that we're going to have an incredible crowd that night. Depending on how both teams do in the first 2 weeks of the season, that's just going to potentially add to the excitement and the atmosphere that evening. So I think the greatest potential game for the largest crowd will definitely be the USC game.
And I hear from your staff at BC Athletics that there are tickets still available for USC, so it's not too late.
Oh, it's definitely not too late, although at the early summer, our staff was cautiously optimistic that we were going to have a sellout before the season started. So I'm not sure how many tickets are left. If someone's contemplating getting tickets to that game, they probably ought to make a move pretty quickly.
All right, warning Superfans, if you want to go to the USC game, call Athletics Tickets. What is it, 552-GO-BC? So make sure you call that number. This is from BC Interruption. Will potential TV coverage be consideration for future non-conference scheduling? BC UMass is not on NESN, so they're just kind of curious.
Yeah, we're really looking at all of our sports relative to how we're promoting those programs through multimedia, and whether it's live streaming, we got a long ways to go to upgrade what we're doing with all of those programs. When we schedule games, are we considering what the television options are? Absolutely, and we're constantly keeping the ACC leadership in the loop in terms of what we're thinking, as well as talking to our media partners, so that as we look at teams, we get sort of we get good feedback relative to whether that would be a viable option for a nationally televised game.
Gotcha. Let's see. We have another question coming in. Oh, so you mentioned the improvements to the fan experience this year for the football games. What are those? Somebody wanted to know.
Oh, very good. So I'm not going to go down a laundry list today. We're just talking about this morning. As I said, we're going to sort of each day next week promote what we're going to be doing. But the one that's already out there, the one we've already talked about, and the one that's probably going to have the biggest impact, that video board and the LED panels that wrap around the stadium, is just going to be amazing. And especially with our first two games being at night, those two technological additions to Alumni Stadium are really going to be beautiful. That will enhance the experience. we're going through the training right now. We got to get through all the glitches. The ACC, as a lot of people know, loosened their requirements on instant replay, and so we're going to try and exploit that as much as possible. And we got a staff that's really looking at the creative ways that we can use this technology and really engage our fans and add to their experience.
Great. No, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Seeing the video boards every day here has been a real treat, just to see the tests and the colors coming through. It's nice to see something so vibrant on campus. So we have another question from BC Interruption. Any thought to reconfiguring Conti for basketball seating to improve the atmosphere?
Thoughts? Yes. Conversations internally? Yes. Have we made any final decisions in terms of renovating the facility to enhance that experience? We haven't made any final decisions. As our fans know, we did move the student section down to the side last year, and you know, the early results were pretty good. The students seemed really excited about that. We sort of lost the students at some point last season, and so it was really difficult to sort of assess the real value of that. Any feedback that our fans could give us and their thoughts on that student seating. We also pushed the end zone seats up so the students were closer to the court. But we're open to any suggestions. We have talked about a plethora of concepts and ways that we can make that a more intimate and close to the court. On top of it, really home court advantage. And so if we can get ideas from our fans, that'll either validate what we've discussed or it may spotlight some new ideas that we hadn't contemplated. But the quick answer to your question is nothing to announce right now. No decisions have been made, but we're definitely engaged in that discussion on a regular basis.
And this is just a reminder to all those watching, if you have a question for Brad, make sure you use hashtag AskBradBates on Twitter. We'll continue along with the ones we have. So this is from Grant Salzano. Has there been any upgrade to the BC Hockey Online stream quality? Grant is a big Superfan out in Connecticut, so this is a good question from him.
Yeah, and I appreciate Grant's question because we had a lot of problems last year, and we had an off-season meeting with our partner relative to live streaming, and we got to get that fixed. So as we head into this year, we've cashed in all our chips with this partner. We've got to make sure that this is, and it wasn't just hockey, we had some issues with some of our other programs as well. But as we get into this season, our expectation is we are error-free. So any feedback Grant can give us, we'd really appreciate that. And anyone out there, as you're watching games, we now have an email address for all our live stream events so people can give instant feedback if there's a problem. And we have someone that's monitoring it so they can deal with it right away.
Yeah, what is that email address? I
don't know it off the top of my head. I knew you were going to ask that. But I'll make sure that I post that in maybe a blog that we put in the next couple of weeks, or probably do it when we start the live streaming.
Okay, so keep your eyes peeled, Superfans, for that. What steps are being taken to improve bowl representation and maybe avoid some of the markets? I know it's not always our choice where we end up going, but that is a question from BC Interruption.
Yeah, really good question, and certainly the way things played out last year in the bowl process, it certainly generated a lot of discussion with our fans on what bowls might be best for us. I know it did for us. Steve Adazio and I were talking 20 times a day. The reality is, as you said, Stephanie, the ACC has a very clearly defined pecking order of the bowls, and those bowls go down that pecking order, and each one picks, and they have their choice. And while some can be tweaked a little bit, for the most part, if a bowl wants you and their pick is up, then they got you. It's when you get into the at-large beyond those bowl partners, that's where it can become a little more negotiable. And so if we're within the partners, the bowl partners with the ACC, that's going to play out how the bowls in the ACC and Boston College discuss it. But at the end of the day, the bowls get to pick who they want. In the at-large scenario, there's a little more flexibility, but it's more dangerous too because there's no guarantees.
Right. I mean, I think what's great about BC is, there were definitely game watches for the bowl this year. I was lucky enough to be with the Boston chapter for their game watch, and there were a lot of maroon and gold in that place. So it was good to see all the super fans come together, even if they couldn't travel. They were still watching the game as a team. So it was really nice to see that.
That's great.
I actually really like this question. So what is the criteria for retiring football, basketball, and hockey jersey numbers?
That's a great question. And the quick answer is I think historically it's been really left up to the coaches and the athletic director. We actually have a group that's working right now to define what threshold it would take to have a jersey retired. My personal feeling is most of our sports are team sports, and you want to have team recognitions. And so to retire a jersey or to honor a jersey really requires exceptional performance, exceptional. And so it shouldn't be something that's diluted just to put jerseys on a wall. It should be something that is really prideful and something that all of us are excited about. And so anyway, we're working on that right now, but that's a great question.
Yeah, in terms of exceptional, I remember as a grad student here that got his number retired, and I think we can all say that's a pretty exceptional person to get their number retired at Boston College.
Yeah, when you're the winningest coach in the history of college hockey, I would say that's a pretty good accomplishment. Yeah, and Jerry's too good to be true. He's just amazing. We are so fortunate to have him as our leader of the hockey program.
So this is something I'm actually interested in myself. Any chance of scheduling a game in Ireland, hopefully against Notre Dame?
All venues are possible, and while we have nothing in terms of a contracted game right now, we are very open to exploring all possibilities. So I wouldn't rule it out, but at this point in time, we obviously don't have anything scheduled there. I'm not sure if, with the Notre Dame cycle right now, we are assigned when we play Notre Dame. Playing Notre Dame in an international game, I think, if we could work that in the non-AC cycle, would be great, because we'd love to play them as much as we can.
I know we're going to see them at Fenway Park next year, which is pretty exciting to have a football game at that place. So any comment you have on that, or
internally we debated that a lot. It's not our home game. We're only going to get 5,000 tickets to the game. It's Notre Dame controls that game, but at the end of the day, we felt like it would be better to play an away game against Notre Dame in Boston than South Bend. And so we've got a lot of plans around that game next year. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to promote that game. I know our students on campus and in the program are very excited about that opportunity. And we're looking forward to it. It's our old home stadium, and so going back there will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, if you're ever in Fenway Park, it's almost right behind home plate. There's a beautiful glass case with a bunch of memorabilia, and one of them is a BC program, a BC football program. So anytime I go to Fenway, I make sure I take a look at that. I think it's between BC and Holy Cross, but it's when we played football at Fenway Park.
That's terrific. I'll have to look for that next time I'm there.
So keeping with the with kind of the rivalry theme, would you entertain any BC Holy Cross as more of an annual series?
I don't know if it would be annual, but I think it makes sense to play them fairly regularly, just because we have great history and tradition. But scheduling is really, you've got to have a philosophy of how you schedule, and it's got to be grounded in helping your team, giving the students a great experience, and recruitment, as well as providing our fans with a schedule that they get excited about. Now, granted, every time there's a home game at Alumni, Boston College is playing the game, right? And so building that, though, around the marketing side of me, for example, we'd love to play Ohio State, Florida, USC, and Texas every year. The coaching side of me thinks that might be overdoing it a little bit. And so there's got to be a balance that really perfectly matches what your team is projected to be in that particular year. I know Steve Adazio wants to build a program here that's going to compete for ACC championships and get in the national championship playoff. And so we've got to be very calculated in how we set up each of those years. So the quick answer is we're very excited about the Holy Cross series. We'll see how the first game goes, and then we'll talk about future games from there.
Alrighty. So this question, I'm not sure who it's from, but kind of interesting. So any consideration about making men's basketball free for students this year, just to get students in the door and excited about the program?
Yeah, really good suggestion. We've had a few people actually bring that forward. I've seen both sides of it at different schools. Vanderbilt, for example, when I was there, did not sell tickets to students. If you showed your ID, you got in free. It was interesting, though. The students at Vanderbilt were, believe it or not, asking us to charge them, and they felt like by charging them and it added a perceived value to it and greater sense of responsibility or obligation or whatever you want to call it to get to the games. We are not talking about doing that for this year. It's something that we have talked about, but it's not something we're going to implement this year. I will say, though, that the Gold Pass has been fantastic. And I'll give one really good example. You know, we've been playing ice hockey in Conti for 25 years, and we played a lot of great teams, a lot of great games, and big games that people would want to attend, particularly our students. The two largest student crowds we've ever had in the history of our ice hockey program at Conti both took place last year. And so we've got a lot of data on the Gold Pass and how that's worked. We've gotten great feedback from the students in tweaking it heading into this year. But I think we're on track to something that could be really, really special in the coming years with the Gold Pass.
So keeping in line with the hockey, you know, there are hockey banners that are kind of been passed down from Superfan to Superfan, and I know a third one popped up last year. So there's the BC Hockey banner, there's the Jerry York Trust banner, and then there's an Ever to Excel banner. Do you have a favorite banner?
Oh, I can't pick between those three. Come on. All that does is irritate the other two, right? I love them all.
Yeah, I thought the Ever to Excel, it was just so nice to see the motto nice and big with Gasson, you know, represented at the games.
Yeah, the motto of Ever to Excel is a daily reminder of striving for to achieve the standards that people who went before us have set. And I just love that motto.
Soaring to Glory asked a great question. So will Jerry York's statue be larger than Doug's Fluties? And where will it be built? And will it be built while he's still coach?
Yeah, in the statue, there's probably a lot of things we could do to recognize Jerry York. And the key part to that question was, will it be built while he's still coach? There's very little he lets us do. He's such a humble man. And so anything that we would do, he really resists. Even the recognition when he broke the record, you know, a couple of years ago, he was very resistant to doing anything. And if you'll remember that night, I think his comments lasted all of 15 seconds. He couldn't wait to play the game and get it over with. But Jerry, as we've talked about before, is just a really special human being.
So I'm just going to do a reminder real quick for anyone who wants to ask a question. It's Ask Brad Bates on Twitter. Use hashtag AskBradBates. You know, with the hockey tournament, you know, first of all, both our hockey teams, men's and women's, are awesome. And I know the women's team, you know, in the Frozen Four, you know, in the tournament every year. Any comments on them? Because I know we've talked about the men's team quite a bit.
Well, the women's team has been in the Frozen Four 3 out of the last 4 years. As we talked about earlier, Alex Carpenter played for Team USA and won a silver medal. She'll be back on campus and playing for us this year. And Katie and Courtney have just done a fantastic job in terms of recruitment and coaching this team up. They're one of the premier programs to beat in the country now, and it's fun hockey. So if you haven't had a chance to go to any of our women's ice hockey games, you need to get out there. And every year, it's fun to be affiliated with programs, and we have a few of these, who are disappointed unless they win their last game. And so being affiliated with a program that is shooting for national championships or the disappointed is really inspiring to the rest of us. And certainly both our hockey programs are two of those programs.
I know you had the opportunity to travel with the women's soccer team last year during their NCAA run. Any memories you had from that?
With the women's team last year, I'm sorry, or did you say men's?
Women's team last year, the women's
Yes.
soccer team from last year.
Oh, soccer, yeah. Actually, I got the chance last year. The schedule worked out well, so I could go out to Nebraska and watch them play um, and win the regional and advance to the Elite Eight. Allison Foley, what she's done with that program is just sensational. I know she's got a game in a couple hours. They're down in Florida today. The way she's recruited talent, great ambassadors to the university, high quality students has just been phenomenal. And that is a team. That's another one of those teams that's disappointed if they don't win the last game. It's amazing the wealth and depth of our programs that compete on the national stage and how we're knocking on the door. And BC has great history and tradition. One of the fun things here is we're striving to make new history, and nothing can be more satisfying than doing something that hasn't been done before.
Truly. I just want to say thank you so much, Brad, for your time. This has been awesome, and thank you to everyone watching online for all your questions. Remember to stay connected to Boston College through social media. All you have to do is go to bc.edu/social to see all the social media accounts. You can follow Boston College, Boston College Alumni, and Boston College Athletics all on Google+. There are pages for those. And definitely keep your eyes peeled for future Hangouts. This has been great. Thank you so much.
Definitely, thank you. And I want to thank everyone out there for tuning in. And I'd love to do this more, so hopefully we can set something up maybe during the winter sports season.
Great. Thanks so much. Go Eagles. Good luck to the team on Saturday.
Thanks.